Wanted to welcome two of our county commissioners who are also with us today, Commissioners Jay Dixon and Commissioner Annabelle Arenillo. Good morning. So, and I just also wanted to very briefly outline the format for today's forum. So, if you would like to ask the Congressman a question, hopefully you picked up a ticket, which is in this white box. And I'm going to be selecting those tickets throughout the next hour, and when your number is called, that will be your opportunity to ask a question. So if you want to ask a question and you've not yet taken a ticket, if you could raise your hand, a staff member will make sure that you have an opportunity to put your ticket in the box. Okay, so nobody's raising their hand. So, okay, then it's my pleasure to introduce Congressman Kurt Schrader, and it occurred to me that in these challenging budget times that we have in our state and in our nation, we are very well represented by Congressman Schrader. And I remember when he was elected to go back to Washington, D.C. and left the state legislature, there was a collective sad sigh because
well, if he didn't get funded, you probably weren't sad.
he served this state, I think, very well in the state legislature before he was elected to Congress. He's currently serving his second term in Washington, D.C., and I'm sure that he'll give us an update on the situation that's happening in D.C. right now. He is a veterinarian by training, living in the Canby area, and we are very happy to have him with us today. Welcome to Corvallis.
Thank you, Madam. Well, we'll have plenty of time, hopefully, for questions. A little more intimate group than up in Salem, so this is good. We can get a lot more questions hopefully answered. I'll just say a couple brief things, and just to set the stage about what I'm doing and what I anticipate spending a lot of time on in this particular Congress. In the last Congress, I'm on the Small Business and Agriculture Committees. Those are pretty good committees for me. As Mayor said, I'm a small businessman, a veterinarian by trade, and Martha and I raised our 5 children on a 60-acre farm up in the Canby area. So I feel at least I have some working knowledge coming into the Congress on these issues. Although I must admit the Ag Committee is a bit different than I had originally envisioned. I remember walking in the door last time and they talked about derivatives. I think, what's that got to do with agriculture? I learned probably a little bit. So I anticipate doing a lot of work for small business issues and small businessmen and women who are struggling, obviously, in this recovery, trying to get themselves back on track. Also plan to be working on a lot of the agriculture issues. The Farm Bill will be up for rewriting in 2012. The current chairman is probably not going to be getting into the discussion much until 2012, so this is an opportunity for this community and others in the 5th CD to give me their feedback about what is important to them in the current Farm Bill that we'd like to see stay in, or things that need to be put in, or what have you. We're in a budget-limited framework, so we won't be spending probably any more money in the new Farm Bill than we are in this one, so we'll have to keep that in the back of our minds as we deal with it. Also picked up 2 new responsibilities. As some of you may know, Congress is a big place, 435 people in the House, 100 in the Senate, and so you try and gravitate to different groups of people that you think you have some common interest in and can pursue like agendas, and so there's 2 groups that I've sort of gravitated to. One is called the New Democratic Coalition. It's a group of like-minded members that are very interested in progressive policies, innovation, business, trying to find ways to get us back on track and promote, frankly, Made in America types of things. Good group of folks. They deal with a wide range of issues, from manufacturing to trade to commerce to healthcare. And I'm actually one of the co-chairs of the healthcare task force for that group. As you know, we passed a little bill called healthcare reform last Congress. A little controversial, and frankly, improvements to be made. So the way I'm looking at this, from my standpoint, my co-chair is Allison Schwartz from Pennsylvania, and our goal is to try and see are there some things that need to be fixed, changed, or improved in that bill. So we're going to be spending a lot of time on that, and if you guys have some ideas here today, that would be very helpful for me. The other assignment I've got is with another group called the Blue Dogs. This is a very fiscally oriented bunch of Democrats. They usually are all over the place on policy, but when it comes to fiscal issues and the status of our nation's debt picture, they tend to be fairly conservative compared to some of the rest of the Democrats in my caucus. And there's only 25 of us left. Most of them were wiped out, obviously, in the last election. It was 54 in the last Congress, and now to 25. And I'm actually the chairman of the Fiscal Responsibility Task Force for them. And my goal there is to, frankly, find a way to get our expenditures and our revenues a little more in balance. We can talk more about that if we'd like in the course of the discussion here. So we can continue to do the stuff that I think the President's talking about, which is out-educate, out-innovate, and outbuild the rest of the world, so we can remain competitive and have good working family jobs here in this country of ours. So that's kind of the outline of the lay of the land for me at the beginning of the 112th Congress, and I'm open for questions.
All right. And I'll call two numbers. So the number that I call first, you'll have the first question, and then the next person will be on deck. So we'll start there. The last three digits, 040. So if you are 040, if you would raise your hand, you get first question, and then the next person is 018. So 040, are you here?
Some people just came to listen.
Okay.
It's okay.
018. First question, and then following that questioner is 039.
And you should tell me how to get Excel spreadsheets on my iPad.
039 will be the next question. Thank you.
Congressman Schrader, the executive branch has been assuming more authority that traditionally and constitutionally has been reserved to Congress and the judiciary. For example, recess appointments to avoid confirmation, the recent stated intent not to defend the Defense of Marriage Act, and executive orders where legislation has failed or not favorable to the current administration, such as the EPA's intention to by rule, enforce parts of the Clean Air proposal. How can Congress reclaim and retain its constitutional powers in the face of this action?
Well, it's been a slow but steady erosion of legislative authority in this country. I'm a bit of a history buff, to be honest, and I think I'll blame Andrew Jackson for starting this.
Woodrow Wilson.
Well, Woodrow Wilson perhaps, but it's been a slow, steady. I guess my point is it's been a pretty slow, steady erosion over time, and I think you hit the nail on the head. It's, Congress doesn't do what the executive branch wants; they try and find ways around it. And quite frankly, in my humble opinion, so does the judiciary. We have a very activist judiciary, and one of the most egregious decisions in my lifetime was the Citizens United decision, where they decided to undo all the congressional law for the last 20, 30 years. EPA, I'm a big clean water, clean air person, but when I see the EPA now making all these rules that are coming out now, I'm not one, and I'll be up front here, guys, that think the greenhouse gas emissions fit under the EPA's rulemaking authority without some authority delegated from Congress. Sort of like the FCC. The FCC is trying to do all sorts of regulations on internet and broadband, and there's been some courts have specifically said they are not sure of their authority. To answer the question, I'm not really sure how. I think part of it's by pushing back some of it that we saw in the recent continuing resolution about encouraging funding or not funding certain parts of the programs that the administration is pursuing. What I'm trying to do is work with the administration. I've had a lot of interaction with Secretary Salazar and Vilsack, particularly being on the Ag Committee. Is there a way we can actually work together to get some things done? And they start ruling that runoff from logging roads is pollution. I think we're in a world of hurt here. We're starting to lose our compass about what's sensible, for goodness sakes. So I'm going to be working closely and see if we can't get around that. To some extent, it requires a supermajority of Congress to be able to override, obviously, some of these decisions, because the President would have a veto power if we pass legislation to that effect. But I think you're going to see a lot of pushback, particularly in the rulemaking area. I will say this President, though, is very aware that we're still mired in a recession, despite the fact that economists tell us it was over 18 months ago. Oregon's still hurt, and so are many states.